Frack on. Welcome to episode of Frack The Canon. I am joined by the co-host with the mostest, my brother from Milwaukee, Mr. CJ McCree. How you doing, good sir?
I live, I breathe.
You are the CJ. Alrighty. So this is like a little different because I've been thinking about this. So after watching Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness, they referenced it that Earth is 616. And then I'm like, wait, the first thing that be a comic book fan, you're a Marvel fan. I'm like, no, you're not 616. The comic book version is 616. And then I guess I've heard the actors in the Captain Marvel said Kevin Feige. I'm like, no, it's not 616 because you have this, this, and this, and this. And I'm like, so to me, I'm like, do you think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a 616 or is it something else completely?
I'll put it like this. Yes. No. Here's the thing. It's like it can be like semantics, right? You know what I mean? Like it can be either, right? You know what I mean? Like, is it 616 the comic universe? No, because there's so many differences. You know what I mean? Like, but then it begs the question, a question that they haven't answered yet. Like, how the frick does this multiverse work? You know what I mean? They hint at it from different avenues. You know what I mean? But like, I'm not convinced that everybody that is in creative control of the MCU actually knows how the multiverse is supposed to work. And when I say that, I mean like the MCU multiverse that they're showing us. I'm not convinced that everybody in creative control actually knows how that's actually supposed to work. Because every time we see it, I feel like we see it in a different light, and it like almost feels like it has different rules. But I mean, that could just be because we haven't seen the full picture yet. But going back to that, we have now had at least two movies that have referenced the MCU proper sacred timeline universe as 616. That's, as far as I know, it's Spider-Man Far From Home, but that character was lying because he wasn't from the multiverse. And now from
but he also said 616, didn't he?
What'd you say?
Didn't he also say he was from?
Yeah, he called this too. He called our 16. I keep saying ours. It's not ours. He called the MCU 616. As did alternate. Who was that? What's it? It's the lady doctor, right? From Doctor Strange.
She was the chick from freaking Mean Girls. Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, right. Christine. But I can't.
Dr. Palmer, Christine Palmer. I remember.
Christine Palmer. Right. She designated that as 616. So the question is, those could it's the multiverse, right? Like in the grand calculus of the multiverse, two characters can, I'm sure, say 616. You know what I mean? And it means whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so, but beyond that, is it the comic book 616? No, obviously not. There are too many things that are different. You know what I mean? Like there. I think the MCU tries its best to respect what the comics does. But I think it changes things as it needs to, updates things as it needs to, changes things to make sense within the narrative that they've already structured. What say you?
I know the comic book gave me like, I remember I should be like, nope, you're wrong. It's not 616. Like, nope. Only because I'm like 616 is we have Peter Parker, Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben dies, not Aunt May. Aunt May still alive, and so I'm like, there's all these little differences that I'm like, well, Aunt May dies in here, and she's no longer around, so no, there's no X-Men, there's no Fantastic Four, there's no well, we don't know if the Inhumans show is a canon or not. So I'm like, there's a lot of characters missing for me to be like, this is not the 616. This is maybe 1625, because I believe the Ultimate Universe is 1610. Like you said, like and like you said too, I feel the same way because there's so many different rules and so many different things of how the multiverse comes to be in the MCU. Like Loki, like you said, the sacred timeline, spells, this chick who can power. I'm not even gonna touch that one right now. But American Chavez just punching through portals. Like, so the multiverse works how? Like I feel like the way, like I feel that the event of Loki would have been like, all right, it would have been felt throughout the entire, like, but we're not seeing it though. So I'm like, like you said, I didn't think about it till you said it. I'm like, you're right. We don't know, they don't know how it works, because I can tell that. I'm like, now that you said, I'm like, yeah, there's all these ways that I don't know. So I'm like, no, this isn't the 616.
Right, and that's the weird thing about about the multiverse thing, because there's so many things that are touching on it, and they all have like their different ways of how they kind of explain things. You know what I mean? And it's like, to me, when I look at all of them, they seem contradictory. Um, but like it's like I also look at it like I also don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
not behind the scenes. I'm not making this. It could just be like a simple explanation, and it's like, oh, this is how all this fits together. Okay, I got it. I got it. You know, we just haven't gotten that yet. And maybe when we get to the meat of, you know, I don't know who the grand evil thing they're gonna face or whatever in this phase or later phases or whatever, then we'll, you know, it'll become clear. But right now, it's like, you know what I mean? I've seen the like you just said, you know, I've seen the multiverse as it pertains to multiple timelines. You know what I mean? And then I've seen the multiverse as it pertains to multiple dimensions. You know what I mean? And then beyond a multiverse, I've also seen like multiple dimensions. You know what I mean? Like that isn't necessarily have to do with the multiverse. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't know how any of this stuff works and fits together. You know, and you know and it's like when Quantum Mania comes out, like, is that going to make it clearer, or is that going to do what they've been doing and show us a completely different aspect of it and make it even crazier? You know what I mean?
The dimensions
Are
on
you
Earth are
doing
ants
something
now.
or make it worse? You know?
Your question is a very like I have no idea. Like it's a DC thing where they're like right now where DC just kind of just like has all in the comic books they just have all this stuff. I'm like, I'm like, this is cool, but what are the rules of the multiverse?
Right. You know, I just want to know the rules. You know, that's all I want to know. You know what I mean? How does this crap work?
Kevin Feige, please explain the rules to us because this is not the 616.
Come on, Clarissa, explain it all.
Dude, wait to age us, man.
But you know, I don't know. But going back to that, like, so yeah, it very well could be. You know, this is just six. This is their 616. You know what I mean? And that's just how it's designated. But that's what sent me off on that tangent. You know what I mean? It's like, but I don't even know what that even means. You know what I mean? I don't know. Is this just a timeline where the choices are made? Is this a completely different dimension that really doesn't have anything to do with that? Like, does this? You know, it doesn't matter. Like, basically, what I'm trying to say is I don't know if within the multiverse of the MCU, there is a universe that is what the comic books are. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like, are they together? Because I don't know how their multiverse works. You know what I mean? Like, is there another universe that you can go to and it is what comic book 616 is? You know, I don't know. Maybe.
That's what I am too. I'm like, so I think that's kind of like how I reconcile. I'm like, well, the cinematic universe that's 616, but the comic book. But again, in the Spider Verse, the first story arc, they brought in Japanese Spider-Man. They brought in like other stuff. They brought in. I'm like, so I'm like, at least that reference that. I'm okay, cool. There's this Spider Verse. So the comic book Spider Verse made it make sense that it seems that everything is canon, but the MCU, the cinematic universe, doesn't answer that at all. So
Now let me just clarify that Spider-Verse came out prior to MCU Spider-Man as well.
yes, that's true. Correct. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it came out prior to Spider-Man Homecoming and Civil War.
Yep.
So it's completely conceivable that if that wasn't the case, that Spider-Man would have existed in that comic book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the writers were like going out of their way to try to compile every Spider-Man that they could. Now I can't. My memory is failing me whether Tobey Maguire is in it. Is in that book. Okay. Yeah,
no,
I can't.
But it's at least I know because when they brought in the Japanese Spider-Man, I'm okay. I mean that makes it canon, but I don't think has there been a new Spider-Verse since then?
There's been
so.
other there's but been Spider-Geddon and
okay.
And I think me and you were kind of off camera. We're kind of speculating about maybe a third one because of that, because of the Edge of the Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
series.
exactly. I didn't Spider get it, but I do want to see. I might get Edge of the Spider-Verse. But back to our main thesis that cinematic universe is not 616.
Sorry, Feige, you tried,
and you're wrong.
But but also, what's a number? You know what I mean? Maybe it is. Maybe there's another multiverse where there's another Illuminati and another Dr. Palmer who named it who named it something else. You know what I mean?
I like how you quoting Shakespeare right now. Instead of what's in the name, what's in the name, what's in the number. Any number was still
right. Exactly. You know what I mean? It's just this is the MCU. You know what I mean? As far as we're concerned, it's the MCU. All this stuff is just, it doesn't matter really. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe there's another. But yeah, like I'm saying, maybe there's another universe and someone, because this is a specific universe where there's a chick who has compiled universes. You know what I mean? Who has numbered them? They're studying the multiverse, and she's decided to number these as she discovers them. Maybe there's not another Christine Palmer doing that somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because so I know we're going off topic right now, but because that did bug me too. I'm like, so if you're naming them, why are you 838? Why are you not Earth 1? Why are you not 616? Like why are you naming them?
We don't know what her naming scheme is. Sure. You know what I mean? Maybe it's like some kind of diagram, and whatever's closest to this blah 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 is one, and everything further from it is goes higher. I don't know. I'm just
because even that was the first time they mentioned 616. I remember in Thor: The Dark World that he had the professor I forgot his name, Selvig or whatever, had 616 on one of his chalkboards. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, are you referencing the comic book? But to me, it seemed like Kevin Feige like slowly pushing. Or I'm sorry, they're pulling pushing that. No, this is the real 616. I'm like, no, you're not. So
honestly,
go ahead.
I think it's more. I see what you're saying. I think it's more coincidental than that. I think it's a bunch. I think these movies are made by a bunch of comic book fans. You know what I mean? And I think each of them want to pay homage to the books in their own ways. And that's why 616 keeps popping up, because it's designated 616. In the comics.
Yeah. No, I'm not yawning. No yawning loud. Sorry. I just refuse. I don't know. I'm just like when I just said. I remember it kicked me out because it kicked me. It shocked me. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I mean, yeah. When it hit me in the movie in Doctor Strange, I was like, it was one of those weird fan service moments where it was almost like it was like I pay for effort. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate the sentiment there, being a comic book fan, but also as a comic book fan, I'm like, wrong. Wrong.
Final thoughts?
Nah, nothing on that. Except, hey, Doctor Strange comes out in like a couple days.
It already came out. Disney Plus. Yes. I'm just waiting for Thor: Love and Thunder to see Jamie Alexander again kick some butt.
You hope.
Don't do it. Don't you do it, CJ. No, you too. All right.
Hope in that movie. But
thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. We'll see you same fracking time, same fracking channel. Frack off.